All right, today we are pulling back the curtain on the single most powerful and probably most misunderstood force in your life, which is, of course, your own mind. We're going to dive deep into the hidden operating system that's quietly running the show, and more importantly, we're going to learn how to rewrite its code. You know exactly what I'm talking about, right? You set a big goal, you're all fired up, you're motivated, and then nothing. You procrastinate, self doubt creeps in, you get distracted by literally anything. It feels like you're fighting yourself. But what if I told you that you're not lazy? You're not unmotivated. You just don't realize who's actually in the driver's seat.
So, what is really going on here? Well, according to research from cellular biologist Dr. Bruce Lipton, this number, 95%, this is the whole story. This is the amount of your cognitive activity. We're talking your decisions, your emotions, your actions, that's run by a part of your mind you barely even know is there, your subconscious.
Just let that sink in for a second. 95% of your day, you are running on autopilot. Now, this isn't some character flaw. It's actually a feature of your brain's design. And understanding how that autopilot works, well, that's the key to finally grabbing the steering wheel for yourself. Okay, so let's get properly introduced to this powerhouse inside your head. The easiest way to think about your subconscious is as this incredibly efficient system, and it's designed for one main purpose: to automate pretty much your entire life. I mean, can you imagine if you had to consciously think about every single little thing you do to drive a car? Check the mirror, press the gas, turn the wheel. You'd crash in about 10 seconds. Your subconscious takes over all that complexity and turns it into an effortless habit. But here's the crucial part. It doesn't judge these habits. Procrastinating on that huge project, it uses the exact same mental machinery as brushing your teeth. So how does it build these habits? It's not random. Neuroscience has shown us it follows a really specific blueprint. A simple but incredibly powerful three-step loop. First, you've got the cue. Let's say it's feeling stressed. That triggers the routine. Maybe you mindlessly scroll social media, and that leads to the reward, a little hit of dopamine, a momentary distraction. This loop is running constantly, forging the very patterns that make up your life. And this is where it gets good, because this reveals the way out. You see, you can't just erase a habit. That pathway in your brain already exists. But what you can do is hijack the loop. You keep the same cue, you figure out what reward your brain is really craving, and then you consciously, intentionally plug in a new and better routine. Do that enough times, and that new pathway becomes the brain's new default. But hang on, if changing a habit is that simple, why does it feel so ridiculously hard sometimes? Well, it's usually because we're giving instructions in the wrong language. Your conscious mind and your subconscious mind, they're like two people trying to have a serious conversation, but one only speaks English and the other only speaks Japanese. Just look at the difference in raw power. It's staggering. Your conscious mind, let's call it the captain, processes around 40 bits of info per second. The autopilot? A mind-blowing 40 million. But honestly, the processing power isn't even the most important part. It's the language difference. The captain thinks in words and logic. The autopilot, it speaks in images, metaphors, and most importantly, feelings. This is the big aha moment for so many people. It's why telling yourself, don't be anxious, almost never works. You're using logic on a part of your brain that doesn't speak logic. It only understands the feeling of anxiety. On the flip side, this is why visualization is so incredibly powerful. When you vividly imagine success, you generate the emotions of success. And suddenly, you're speaking a language your autopilot can finally understand. You know, the brilliant psychologist Carl Jung nailed this perfectly. He said, until you make the unconscious conscious, it will direct your life and you will call it fate. All those things we chalk up to bad luck or just the way things are, so often it's just our own unconscious programming playing out on a loop. The goal is to drag that programming into the light so we can finally direct it ourselves. So if this system is so powerful, why does it seem so resistant to the new things we want to do? Like, why does it fight us? Well, it turns out it has one prime directive that overrides everything else: keeping you alive.
See, your comfort zone isn't about laziness. It's a survival strategy. To your ancient primal brain, anything that's familiar is safe. Anything that's new and unknown, like starting a business or asking someone out or speaking in public, that smells like a potential threat. So procrastination, anxiety, imposter syndrome, that's just your internal security system blaring its alarms, trying to drag you back to what it knows is safe. So how in the world do you retrain this ancient protector? How do you teach it that growth isn't actually a threat? There's this fantastic real-world example from Sarah Blakely, the founder of Spanx. She basically built her empire by learning how to reframe rejection. This was the question her dad would ask her and her brother every single week at the dinner table. And get this, if she didn't have a failure to report, he'd actually be disappointed. Now, just think for a second about what that does to your internal programming. It starts to completely rewire the meaning of failure itself.
She essentially reprogrammed her autopilot. The feeling of failure was no longer connected to danger or shame. Instead, it became linked to progress, to taking action, and even to her father's approval. This gave her the superpower to push past those fear signals that stop most of us cold. And yeah, it ultimately led to her billion-dollar success.
Okay, so we've met the autopilot, we've learned its secret language, and we understand its motives. Now for the fun part. How do we actually practically take command and start giving it new instructions? Rule number 1, you have to understand that your subconscious is like fertile soil. It will grow whatever you plant in it, flowers or weeds, it doesn't care. It takes your self-talk as direct commands. It has absolutely no sense of humor, and it doesn't understand negatives. You know the classic example, don't think of a pink elephant? What's the first thing you do? You think of a pink elephant. Your brain has to picture the thing you're telling it to avoid.
Let's look at this in practice. When you say to yourself, don't be nervous, you are planting the seed, nervous, directly into your mind. You're focusing all your mental energy on the very thing you don't want. The right command, the one your autopilot can actually work with, is to state what you do want. I am calm, confident, and prepared. That gives your subconscious a clear, positive target to aim for. So here's a simple little formula for crafting commands that actually work. First, they have to be positive. State what you want, not what you don't. Second, use the present tense, as if it's already a reality. And third, and this is probably the most important, make it personal and emotional. Use I am and attach a powerful feeling to it. Remember, it speaks the language of emotion. And because your autopilot is always on, always listening, you have to become the bouncer at the door of your mind. You have to be vigilant about your inputs. The news you consume, the social media you scroll, it's all programming. The first 30 minutes and the last 30 minutes of your day are especially critical. And this goes for your social circle too. The beliefs and attitudes of the people around you are being absorbed by your subconscious, whether you realize it or not. So here's the ultimate takeaway. Your subconscious mind is not some uncontrollable, mystical force that's working against you. It's a tool. It's an unbelievably powerful operating system that for most of us has just been running on default settings our whole lives. And what we've just gone through together, this is the user manual. You now know how to get in there and start customizing the settings. It's right there. A powerful, obedient servant that's just waiting for your instructions. So the only question left is, now that you know how to give the commands, what's the very first destination you're going to choose?